Welcome all to Vision Podcast. This podcast focuses on athletes past, present and future. I'm your host Jordan McKenna and I help athletes tell their stories. Everyone has their sights set on something. I know everyone has a vision, and my question is, what's yours? Hello and welcome to Vision Podcast episode 51. On this week's episode we speak to a member of the USA track and field team. His name is Mason Finley. Mason talks to us about what it took for him to become the athlete that he is today, as well as helps me, an Australian, understand the American college system. Here is my chat with Mason Finley. I'm with Mason Finley from the United States. Mason, thank you very much for joining me for a chat about everything past, present and future in your life. Do you mind telling me how you began as an athlete?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Let's see, this all began when my dad, he was a discus thrower here in Kansas. He went to the University of Wyoming, and when I was about, 10 years old, he pulled out his old college disc, and I was kind of messing around with them. He showed me all the medals he got. I was pretty enamored with those, and he made my first disc out of two little mini Frisbees, filled them with sand and taped them, and that's where it all started. Yeah. Beautiful.
That's an amazing story that you've got there, and you can share that with your dad. What was Dad's career like?
He won his high school state meet in the discus and the shot his senior year, and then he went to the University of Wyoming. I don't know how high he placed actually at the NCAA's, but I know he threw just over 200 feet. He told me he forgot throwing completely until I grabbed one of his discs out of his closet, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I used to throw that, and you should throw that too." So yeah.
Oh, there you go. And he would have been with you along every step of the way in your career. Where did you go from getting those two Frisbees taped together? What did you do then?
Well, so for us, we start kind of like a competitive track in 7th grade for us. So that was my first meet. I grew up in a small town, so I wasn't used to like the USA track and field meets that were in Denver. I grew up in Colorado, so it was like 3 hours away. So I started in 7th grade just throwing out my middle school track meets. It was okay. I wasn't the best at first. In the discus, I always did well. The shot, I would get beat by a couple of guys, and then I don't know. I mean, for me, my dad, we just practiced all year round. I did all the other sports as well, as far as like soccer, American football, basketball, wrestling, and stuff like that. But we always, went out and threw at least twice a week throughout the year.
So you were an all-rounder in all different sports, but track and field just got your attention. What was it like going through to college? And first of all, what college did you represent? And then what was the competition like?
I went to University of Kansas for my first 3 years, and then I transferred and finished at University of Wyoming, my second two, which is where my dad went to school. He finished up. The competition in the Big 12 was pretty fierce right off the bat, because Julian Ruck was at Texas throwing huge bombs. He eventually went to UCLA about the same time I went to University of Wyoming, actually. So the college competition was always tough. I've taken second place 4 times at the NCAA level and never got a first. But yeah, so there was always somebody up there right along with me. And yeah, I mean, it was a blast.
Of course. So you would have obviously had that people pushing you along the way, which is good. What drove you to then go into the Olympic Games and compete in the red, white, and blue?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's see. So I guess my Olympic dream started about sixth grade for me. That was 2004 Olympics, and we had, I don't know if you remember TiVo, where you like recorded it with your remote.
Oh, yep,
and,
yep.
Yeah, and we had that recorded. My dad and I would watch that, like, probably, honest to God, every day. Like, we would watch, because Alekna won that one with our local guy, Casey Malone, in the final. And I think that's where my Olympic dream kind of started. And I guess when I graduated, I was like, well, I can go into the workforce, or I can see this through, realize my Olympic dream. So I pushed through and was lucky to make the team and win the Olympic trials in 2016.
Beautiful. So what does the Olympic trials involve in the United States? Because this is coming from an Australian. We have certain meets that we go and you'll get your times there. I'm guessing it's the same with you guys in the States?
Of course, you got to get the standard, and then the top three people with the standard will advance, and that's our Olympic trials about a month before the Olympics.
Okay, so apart from your dad being an inspiration to you, what other inspirations did you have in the sport in order to kind of base your throws on, or your whole mentality around what you were doing?
For me, my first, I guess, role model or inspiration was Casey Malone. He was is the throws coach at University of Colorado in Boulder, and so that was like 4 hours away from where I grew up, and I got to watch him compete, and I shadowed him for career day. And at that time, I was just a sixth grader, so I meet this guy, and he's so tall and just relaxed and kind of laid back, and I was just like, yeah, that's nice, and just the way he throws is so smooth and just relaxed. I always enjoyed watching that and tried to mimic that. And another guy I would say is Ben Plucknett. I never had the chance to meet him, but I watch his YouTube videos all the time.
Okay, so I have to ask the question in regards to throws and even track and field in general. You have to have a certain mentality about you in order to continue on, and because we always fail in these sorts of sports, but we always tend to pick ourselves back up. What helps you pick yourself back up?
That's a good question. Let's see. Yeah, I've definitely failed a lot more than I've succeeded at meets, but I think the thing that keeps me going is just the pure love for throwing. Like, if there was no meets, I think, and there was still a disc in existence, I think I would still just throw that, on the weekends. Just a fascination, I guess, with just the movement and the way it feels when it leaves your hand, just kind of watching it float in the sky. I think that's always like my core, or based, kind of thing that keeps me going.
Well, we're at that point at the moment, aren't we, when we can't really compete with what's currently going on in the world. I do have a little thing that I'm going to send you later on. It's something that they've developed here in South Australia, where I'm from, called ISO throws. And a guy by the name of Ben Harradine was the first person to kick it off. I'm pretty sure you'd know Ben Harradine.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what we have is we have an object each week, and we have to see who can throw that the furthest. The first object is a toilet roll. Ben threw it 30 meters. So what I'm going to ask you and challenge you is to see if you can film yourself doing that and how far you can throw the toilet roll. And we'll get it to the boys down here in SA.
Are we talking double ply or single ply?
I'll have to clarify that for you, but it's something that we're kicking off here in SA, and there's a different instrument that you can use each week.
Okay, that sounds cool.
So what I'll do is we'll chat afterwards, and we'll get you to film that and get it down to the boys here in Australia. I have to ask, what are some words of advice that you could offer young athletes that are up and coming?
I guess the biggest advice I could give is to always come back to, like, your love of the sport. A lot of times stress can get pretty heavy in your training competitions. And remember that it's a game, it's fun, it's supposed to be, a blast. And just to remember, I guess, no matter how far you get, into the pro level, or if it's just college or whatever, just remember that, you do this for fun and you love it.
That's beautiful words of advice. So what's next for you in regards to competition. I understand, as I've said before, we've got this currently going on, the COVID-19, but we'll look past that. What's up for you next?
Well, yeah, with all of this craziness that's going on, I keep hearing rumors that there might be a season left, or they're going to try to get something together. So we don't, I guess, still know. I mean, my training is taking a huge hit, just not being able to get in the facilities. I built a gym in my garage and go throw at whatever field I can get to. But yeah, it's just not the same. And so we're kind of in this place where it's like, well, do we just kind of take this whole season off, or do we try to hit those meets, towards the end of the summer if they become available?
You said you've taken a bit of a hit with your training. How's that, if you don't mind me asking, affected you personally in regards to how you feel leading up to now, what is 2021 Olympics?
It's nice. I was really glad to have some answers when they finally postponed it. So that actually, that just gave us a direction. It definitely threw everyone for a loop, but I feel like the sentiment that Coach and I are carrying is that, okay, all this did was give us more time to work our craft, so I can come extra prepared. You can flip or spin anything, but, the important thing is to stay positive and just, try to keep your head on a swivel to see what's coming.
And who have you got coaching you on your journey? You mentioned him then. Should we give him some airtime?
Absolutely. My coach is Andy Kolonovsky from the University of Kansas.
And what's his story in regards to himself as a thrower, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so he was a thrower from the Ukraine. He was in the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta. He went to college in Texas and got his first coaching gig in Louisiana, and then from there he went to Kansas, University of Kansas, and he's been there for quite a while now. I don't know how many years.
The NCAA is something interesting to me as an Australian. It took a while for me to wrap my head around it. Was it easy for you to get your head around it as a kid? Like, is it something that's just shoved in your face as soon as you decide to do track and field?
Yeah, I guess it's the natural next step in our system. You go from high school, and I guess it's already been just said of it where it's the natural next step. I think you got to get thrown into something where everything's bigger from high school to NCAA. The competition's better. I don't know. The meets seem to meet more, where there's a possible stronger sense of team unity depending on which team you join. But I guess it's pretty quick, and you just try to do as much research you can on the coaches and the programs as quick as you can your senior year, and go on the visits and try to choose what college you want to go to. But yeah.
Well, you were a Jayhawk, and what's Wyoming? Cowboys, there you go. That sounds like a good journey that you've taken there, just going by the mascots. I have one last question for you, and that is around my podcast, which is Vision Podcast. I have to ask the question, what is your vision for athletics in the future?
The future?
Yeah.
I guess, with just 2021 being around the corner now, being ready for that, getting on the podium again since Worlds, that would be awesome. And finally cracking that 70-meter barrier for me.
There we had Mason Finley of the United States of America. Thank you very much, Mason, for joining me for a chat on Vision Podcast, episode 51. And thank you, the fans, for listening once again. Join me next week. Who knows who we're going to get.